Hello and welcome to another board game review. This is another one of my Empress 4 reviews that I'm doing in the next month or so as I get more copies from them. I've already recently talked about Trial of the Temples, a solid 7, go check out that review. But now I'm looking at Jiguan, I think that's how you pronounce it, Jiguan.
We have to wait for Vegeta and Trunks to come out of the hypertonic lion tamer.
That one was on purpose.
The Eastern Mechanist. This is definitely one that's going to appeal to a lot of people, but maybe not to others. And I'll get into that sort of detail later. But Empress 4 tend to do a lot of games that will test the brain cells, but not be too hard to get into, not too fiddly. This one definitely feels like one of the heavier titles that they've put out, definitely compared to a lot of their other stuff. Now, saying that, I have not played Roundhouse. My mate is overdue like crazy to teach me Roundhouse, but I don't have a copy myself. It's at the Dice Portsmouth Library. My mate's going to teach it to me when I can get him free for 2.5 hours. That's a hard thing to do when he's got a kid, but oh well, needs must. But certainly, leaving that one aside, this is definitely one of the heaviest ones I've played. So in Jiguan Eastern Mechanist, you are basically building these fantastic magical beasts, and again, theme kind of light, you know, as with a lot of Empress 4 games, don't tend to play them for themes. They're not necessarily thematic games, but they are interesting, quirky little mechanical games. And this one, yeah, I mean, you're building mechanical beasts. This is mechanics through and through. But what you're doing is that you have this board with the blueprints for the beast that you collect and put on it. But there's spaces for these cogs, a sideboard where you can draft these cogs from. You know, they're in piles and you have to take like 2 adjacent ones. But these cogs are numbered and they're coloured. There's a lot. I mean, if you're colorblind in this game, yeah, you might have problems. But what you're doing is that you're putting these cogs on your board, and when you have got 3 cogs in a horizontal, like vertical or diagonal line, then if the blueprint's there and it matches the number on the blueprint exactly, so say you've got a cog of 4, 5, and a 2, it makes 11. If the blueprint is 11, then you complete the beast and you flip it over. In doing so, you level yourself up these pagoda tracks, which can get you some more victory points, some more bonuses, but they're color-coded as well. There's bonus end of round scoring. There's 2 rounds, so you finish 1 round, score up, and then do another round, score up, and then the game ends. But depending on how high you are on these pagoda tracks might get you additional bonus points. But what you're mainly looking out for, I mean, there's a fair few ways to get points, but the main thing that's going to score you well is the dots. They call them dots because, well, they literally are dots. They're basically little coloured circles on the various blueprints. But a blueprint will have 1, flipped one will have 2, and then various other things you collect, like these combo cards, will allow you to get more of these dots. But you'll score based on multipliers at the end of each of the 2 rounds, based on how many of those dots you've got. So if you know that blue is going to score very high, you might try and collect and complete a lot of blue blueprints, as well as, you know, you might have picked up a card that says you get extra points for all your green dots. Well, okay, well, I better do some green blueprints and get those completed. They'll stay around, they don't get discarded, so you've got them throughout the whole game. But that's kind of a light way of describing the mechanics of the game, because there's quite a lot in here. It's quite involved, because as well as all of this going on with the cogs and the beasts and trying to get them in a certain way in your map, effectively, especially when cogs get discarded, you keep a couple, but you have to get discarded. You keep 1 and discard the other 2 when you're doing, or something like that. I forget which way around it is. It's either keep 1, discard 2, or keep 2, discard 1. It's one of them. But you know, you have to do this every time you complete a blueprint. So great, I've got to get more cogs. Well, what number do I need? Is there a number there? Oh, there is. Oh, you've nicked it. Oh, crying out loud. And you get a lot of tension for that. But you can also level up a couple of tracks on your board to allow you to buy more blueprints or get cards. And there's 2 types of cards. You've got scoring objective cards, where if you meet a certain condition, like have color blueprints next to each other, or if you've got certain amount of value cogs, or if you've just got so high on a particular track or whatever, you can get a cool bonus and more points. But then you've also got another set of cards which give you instant bonuses. So I can instantly go up on this track, I can instantly get a couple of cogs, I can instantly get some points, I can instantly get a red blueprint. You know, it feels weird saying red and then blue print. It's even weirder when you say a blue blueprint, but oh well, that's a weird thing. But yeah, so there's quite a lot of going on here. This is definitely a heavier title. Not to say that the rules are, you know, overly complex, although I will say this was probably one of the more fiddly rule books to get through. You know, the Trial in the Temples one I did in the last time was comparatively really easy to understand the rulebook. I felt this one was a little bit oddly written, particularly when you're trying to distinguish between beginner game and a two-player game. It was kind of like, huh? You know, I had to reread it a couple of times in order to get used to it. So this isn't going to be the easiest first game that you play of this. But once you get the game down, it's like, okay, this clicks, this clicks, this clicks. And even though it recommends you do the beginner game, I kind of recommend you don't. I think you should just jump into this, because you should not teach a light gamer this game. This is not for gateway gamers, this is not for new gamers. You should teach this with gamers, I think. So rather than do the beginner mode, you should just jump in with the whole lot. But it will also make life a bit easier in terms of rules, because you haven't got to try and separate bits out for the beginner mode. It's kind of odd. But yeah, suffice to say, this was kind of a little bit lacking on rulebook clarity for me. But aside from that, the rest of the game is pretty solid. Firstly, it's a very pretty game. I mean, Trial of the Temples was already pretty with the colours, but this one is a thing of beauty as well. You've got all these different sideboards, multiple colour pagodas and cogs. You know, it's nicely produced. You know, the cards are nice. They look cool. It fits the theme of this kind of like Japanese English like mechanism. Oh, actually, not Japanese. It's Chinese actually. Sorry, I do apologise. But it's got that theme like resonating in the artwork and the look of it, even though thematically it's not particularly that strong. I mean, you could be building anything. It could be buildings, it could be art canvases, it could be dresses, it could be anything. The fact that it is mechanical beasties is just to fit in line with the fact you're collecting cogs. Like I say, theme, pretty light, but I'm not playing this for the theme. The mechanics, though, are very cool and interesting because it's a cool puzzle. And that's what this feels more like. This is kind of like the most puzzly of a lot of their Emperor S4 games. Because you got to think, hang on a minute, if I put the 3 there and the 4 there, that allows me to then, I need a 3 to finish that one. But if I get a blue cog and put it on that line, then I'll get an energy bonus because I've put it on the same line as a blue blueprint. I knew it was going to get weird. But then I need the 3, and the 3s are all yellow, and the 2s are green, and but maybe if I grab that blueprint and put it there, I can work on that later, grab that one now, but I would like that card. That is You're creating combos and puzzling out this layout of your board all the time in this game. It is really engaging. I don't feel that there's any downtime in this because you've got to think about what it is your next move is. You've got to look at those cards, you've got to look at the blueprints that are available, you've got to map out, all right, I need that cog, that cog, that cog, and I can do this. But I could get some more energy if I grab that. Oh, he's exhausted a pile of cogs on this particular building. That means I can get that cog as well as an energy bonus. Maybe I should do that. There's a lot of different options that you have. So certainly it can be overwhelming for new players. Going from their criteria, 2 to 4 players, no solo mode I'm afraid, but strategy 4 out of 5. I'm surprised there's not a 5 actually. I mean, there's a lot of strategy in this game that you gotta think about, but 4 still means that this is quite a heavy-ish title, and certainly I think it's definitely one of their more thinky titles. Luck, 2 out of 5. Now this is interesting, because Trial of the Temples was given a 1 out of 5, and this was given a 2, but luck-wise, I feel like this is... Sorry if you can hear a noise outside, but I feel like this one isn't that high on the luck factor. I mean, you've got these card decks which put out the scoring cards and the instant bonus cards, but you see, I think, 8 of them? Yeah, you see 8 in each category. So it's not like you're dependent on something coming out. And I haven't had an occasion where somebody flips a card over and is like, oh, this is amazing, I can get it now. It doesn't quite happen like that. You can see what cogs are there because they're in stacks, but then, yeah, okay, you might draw a cog and then the one underneath it happens to be something that another player wants. So there's a little bit of that, but I don't feel that comes through in the game or completely like swings the game one way or another. So I would have happily put this as a 1 out of 5 luck, but 2, yeah. But don't be put off by thinking, oh, there's a lot of luck in this game. There really isn't. Interaction, 4 out of 5. Yeah, that's pretty true as well. I mean, you are taking cogs away from cogs away that other players want. You're trying to beat each other on the pagoda tracks because you want the bonus at the top as well as like adjacency bonuses and that. There's cards that you might want to collect before other players do. You're not directly affecting another player though, so it's not like I can steal your cog. There's no take that mechanics in this. So maybe interaction 4 is a little high, maybe 3 would have been more realistic, but like I say, you still have to pay attention to other players at all times. And weight, 4 out of 5, yeah, definitely. If it's not a 4, it's certainly a 5. I mean, this is definitely one that's going to have your brain busting at times. You're going to be thinking, oh god, what's the best way to do these cogs? You make a wrong move, it could really hold you back. You know, you've only got 2 rounds, and the game's not that long. I mean, it says 45 to 90 minutes on the box. I think if this game takes you any longer than 90 minutes, you've got AP players. You know, it's only 2 rounds. You can quickly get through those 2 rounds. With 2 players, easily 45 minutes. I mean, it doesn't take that long to play. But for ratio of minutes played to how much your brain hurts, this can certainly tax that in spades. You know, there's definitely a lot that your brain's got to deal with. But is it fun to play? Yeah, I like it. The combo building in this is sound. I love the fact that there's all these different cards that I can pick, and at different times I'm thinking, well, I'm doing quite well on the purple, so maybe I should grab that scoring card first, and then I can focus entirely on the purple track. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm suffering a bit on that pagoda. I could really do again. Oh, there's a bonus card there that allows me to do that. How do I get that bonus card? Well, if I spend some energy, how can I get some energy? Well, if I get that cog and shove it on this blue line, then I'll get those blue blueprints. I'm going to be saying it all the time now. I'll get some bonus energy, and then I can spend that energy to get the card, and then that will level me up there. There's all of this that you're thinking about on every turn. Never have I sat in this game going, you know, bored, or on downtime thinking, I know what I want to do, will you just hurry up and take your turn? Apart from maybe the occasional AP player in a 4-player game. Certainly it will take a bit longer with that, but I think this is a brilliant 2-player game. I think it probably plays best at 2 personally. It is sounded free. I think 4 is maybe just a little bit too contested, perhaps maybe just a bit too long because of obviously adding more players adds more time, but I think it scales fine with 2 to 3 to 4 players, but I could happily play this just as a single 2-player game. Playing it at 3 is fine. 4 is probably the least favourite of my ways to play it, but either way, I'll play it at any player count. So, this is a pretty solid hit for me, actually. I mean, it's more thinky than a lot of their games have made that I've played. I mean, Hanamakoji, you know, gives you those like brain-burning choices, but it's still pretty light. Mystery of the Temples is quite light. Trial of the Temples was a little lighter than this one. Herbalism, really light card game. Crow's Overkill, really light card game. You know, there's a lot of light stuff they tend to do. Granted, not played Roundhouse, I'm getting on that. But this is definitely one of their heavier titles. I've not played every single Emperor S4 game, okay? That's a fact. But I'd be hard-pressed to think that people wouldn't put this in their top 3 heavyweight Emperor S4 games if they were able to do a top 5 or top 3 of that. You know, this is definitely one that is more thinky. I've lost track now of what number in the series they are. I mean, Trial of the Temples was 4, this is 5 in the big box series, but I forget what's in those. I've got small boxes of those. It's kind of, it's hard to keep track of what series they're in now. And like I say, but to be honest, all of their games are solid. They're fun, they're interesting, they're quirky. They don't necessarily blow my mind, apart from say like Hanamakoji, and maybe Walking in Brano was a really good one. And I'm looking forward to the 2 new ones that are coming out. But certainly, all their games are consistently good. This is a publisher you really should keep your eyes on, because they just make nice, portable, fairly portable. I mean, this is not a huge space on your shelf. They pack a lot into these boxes for what, like, little space they take on your shelf. It's a great game. I think this is a solid one of their best ones they've done. I'm giving it a solid 8. Definitely one that you should check out if you want an Emperor S4 title that is going to burn your brain just that little bit extra. But with the caveat, I would rank it higher if it wasn't quite so fiddly with the rules book and having to set it up at different player counts. You know, this is definitely one that you need to pay attention to the rule book. If there's a video of how to learn this, I suggest you watch it because it could help. But a bit more clarity in the rule book would have helped this game a lot because it is already quite thinky. And certainly, I would not be opposed to maybe seeing a few more cards in each of the 2 decks, but, you know, there's a little bit of repetition, even if they change the colours here and there. But all in all, solid 8. Definitely one to check out. So that is Jiguan. Again, if I'm mispronouncing it, I apologise, but, you know, it's a solid Emperor S4 title. So that's it for me, and I'll see you on the next A Broken Meeple review. And until then, regardless of whether it's a blue blueprint or a green blueprint or whatever, it's still only a game, so just try not to get your tongue tied, alright? Take care, see you next time.